Welcome everybody back. Joining me as always, Jordan Jones, Assistant Scouting Director. Jordan, you got your coffee ready to go this morning?
Yeah, ready to roll.
As we saw the intro there with all of the fall events, and I think we've said this multiple times, Jordan, seems like every kind of, I guess you could say really probably for like summer events and probably the Mid-Atlantic State Games in the fall. Like, oh, you got to get in, like it's going to fill up, this, that, and the other. And I think people are like, they're just saying that. So this past week, just in state games and uncommitted games, between Maryland players for state games and Virginia players for state games and our uncommitted games, we had over 130 registrations last week. So the email was jumping last week for sure, with all the registrations. I would say state games is closing kind of like 50% sold out, if you will. I'll give a quick update while we're on here as to kind of like what positions are looking like, because that's probably the biggest thing. Half of the outfield spots are sold out. Roughly half of the catching spots are sold out. Over half of the first base spots are sold out. We have about 10 first base spots left. We have about 16 catching spots remaining. And little under half of the infield spots are sold out. So, which is kind of surprising because that's usually the first one that in catching the first ones to go. But a lot of first basemen registered so far. So, and then pitchers, POs, we're kind of, I don't want to say wide open. We have some registrations, but there's no real necessarily cap on those. But that is an update for state games. For uncommitted games, we are going to cap that event as well. We are over 50% sold out for that event. And that event has been open, Jordan, for 4 or 5 days now. So I think we're at 40 registrations. We're going to cap it at like 75, 80-ish registrations for that event. So uncommitted games is going extremely well at Longwood. Longwood looks like they just got finished with their turf. We were talking about it last night. Looks awesome. Looks great. So excited to get out there with Coach Noe and his staff, and get over to Farm Vegas. Everybody's, I guess, not really Jordan's old stomping grounds, but kind of a little bit close to home.
Been around the way.
Yeah. It was my stomping grounds for, I guess, about 2 years. But anyway, those are the fall events. Open ID on October 12th, freshman free on October 12th. I think that event right now is around 20, 25 players total for that combined event. And then we got some scout days that next weekend and uncommitted games and state games. So the fall, like it you look at it and you're like, man, we got a ton. And then next thing you know, you look up and we're, halfway through. So make sure you get your invites in, make sure you get registrations in if those are things that interest you. Now, Jordan, we're going to start off with talking about tournaments. All right. I want you, before I go soapbox style, I want you to give like initial thoughts, kind of on the weekend, and just overall, just general thoughts for the tournament, opening tournament weekend.
Yeah, just getting back in the groove of things with fall tournaments. Coming off a good summer tournaments as well. Had plenty of good offensive showings throughout the weekend. Saw plenty of home runs. Saw some future game alum guys, getting back to it after having some success at future games. They showed well this weekend as well. Like one guy I definitely want to talk on is Jacob Babcock, 2027 from Mills Godwin. Talk about a weekend. 4 home runs on a weekend, 3 in bracket play. And like these weren't no wall scrapers. Every single one of them were no doubters, leaving the park in a hurry. He's showing some of that bat speed, that natural loft in the swing, and it showed up in some quality arms as well. Just talking about like his performance at future games, we talked about it before. He just showed well, quality arms, putting quality at bats together. And it was a lot of the same thing this past weekend. So it was just really, really impressive to see. And just, he's starting to turn the page here. That offense and that impact continues to grow and keep continuing to get better. So it's good to see that show up consistently throughout the weekend for him.
Absolutely. We had, I guess, Friday. I think I got the first bolt of fall tournament season. And Aiden, I'm going to butcher your last name. But Aiden Yayahu, I think. It's probably not exact, but I'm probably close. 2028, Mills Godwin High School. Saw him Friday night. Man, he's just gotten so physical. The upper body, you can see it in the arms, you can see it in the shoulders. He can really turn the barrel. It's an aggressive approach at the plate, but caught his bolt on Friday night. Kind of a no doubter. He got into it a little bit. That was at Dory. And people who play it like Ironbridge, like all of Babcock's home runs came in Ironbridge, and people who play, like the one field, I guess it's what field one is a smaller field. But the one that he hit on that field when I got there on Sunday was that in the championship game? Yeah. Yeah. That was in the championship game. Like that was people up there on putt, like were ducking for cover. But then on field two, he hit one like out of left center that, y'all said was still going up on its way out. And it's with wood, and like you're just hitting baseballs hard. You're just hitting baseballs hard and hitting baseballs far. And for all the people that, again, to say, oh, it's a smaller yard. Well, who else is hitting them? Right? Like, You say that all you want. Ain't nobody else hitting them. I'm not going to say nobody else, but Wyatt Parker had a grand slam to kind of cap things off on Sunday for the Mid-Atlantic Orioles team. William & Mary commit 2027. We talked about Aiden's home run a minute ago. Did you catch? It was another bolt on field too. Was it? No, Noah Gray.
Noah Gray hit one on Saturday, field one, backside out of right field. Yeah. You want to talk about impact that's starting to pick up. That guy, he's starting to get stronger. He's always been hit to field for the barrel, but we're seeing him lift the baseball a little bit more, show off some of that strength. So that's another good thing for him for one of our future games alumnus showed well at future games.
Yeah. Let's see. Going through the tournament, Ironbridge, Dragum 2027 Babcock's team. They went 4-0. They won the gold championship. They scored 31 runs. They allowed 3 throughout the course of the tournament. Coach Powers' Braves Platinum team went 4-0. They were the, I guess you could say, unlucky recipient of like run rules, and I say run rules like tie-breaking rules. They didn't get into the gold bracket. They were 2-0. And tie-breaking rules just pushed them into the silver bracket. They ended up winning the silver bracket, going 4-0 with 30 runs scored and 8 runs allowed. You have Braves 2026 Platinum. They went 4-1. And then you had Nova Premier Orange also going 4-1. But those are kind of some of the top, I guess you could say, just by record-wise, the top 4. So solid start to the fall. What do we have, Jordan? We had 35 teams in the tournament this past weekend. Was a good weekend, good tournament. It was our first weekend for our new crop of fall interns, I guess you could say, and there's a lot of training and stuff like that. So I kind of want to touch on a few things before we move to rankings, more so with tournaments. Like Jordan and Mike and some of the guys, Jaden and Grant and some of those guys who have been around for a while, those guys do an extremely good job. They work extremely hard, as do all of our staff members. And you're going to be hard pressed to get anything by those guys in terms of like content or hit or, barrel or, whatever. But kind of everybody's got to remember, like, hey, at some point in time, it was everyone's first day. Right? So, like, I think that our staff has done such a good job at tournaments or high school games or whatever it is at events that kind of there's sometimes there's this like almost unrealistic expectation of like, if there are 150, or 50 doubles on the weekend and 15 home runs and 10 line drives or whatever it is, like every single thing that happens, our staff members are going to get it. That's unrealistic unless we just have a camera sitting up and we go back and just dive into hours and hours and hours of footage. And that's not what we do, right? We get stuff out kind of live, if you will, and asynchronous or not asynchronous, but at the same time as the games are going on for the most part. And we were training 5-6 new interns this weekend, and it takes some time. Like, if people think that it's an easy job, it's not. To try to get video, not miss hitters, get arms, get velos in, find out who the player is, which that's a whole nother topic that we'll dive into here in a second. But it's a very hard job. And it takes some guys months. Like, we'll run summer interns and summer staff members for 6-7 weekends. And sometimes it's like weekend 5, 6, 7. Sometimes it's weekend that doesn't exist before they figure it out. Right. And it's just like everybody kind of, just like anything, everybody kind of learns at their own pace or whatever. And these guys are kind of getting thrown in the fire and thrown in the deep end, and they're having to figure it out really quickly. And the expectation is that we get absolutely as much as we can. And that's the expectation on our end, because I think that's the expectation from players and teams and parents and all of that stuff alike. And while that is the expectation, we also have to remember, like, hey, like that's impossible. Right. And it's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. I mean, we get emails, hey, how come you didn't get this, hit this, that, and the other? Like, we can't get every single thing. Right. But the guys work extremely hard. They work harder and do a better job than any other organization in this entire region, in the country. I'll put our staff up against anybody in the country as far as like tournament coverage and stuff like that. And they do an extremely good job. So, like, I don't know, I guess the best way to put it is like, be appreciative of like how hard they're working for these players. And, kind of give them their room a little bit sometimes. Tournaments are fairly easy, right, to maneuver and work games. But, try to give them some space so they can get in there and do their job. The next topic that I want to get on, Jordan, is rosters. Before I go full scorched earth on rosters, I'm gonna let you like tiptoe into the pool in this one.
Yeah, right. So, like, it's hard for us to identify players, know who's who, know what's what, in terms of if we don't have a roster or numbers or grad years or schools aren't there or like just mixed up. It's hard for us to identify those guys. So like when you come to tournaments, I think it should be an expectation, especially any showcase, to have a roster, whether it's online, paper, whatever. It helps us out. It helps college coaches out when we come to see and identify players. So, I mean, think having a roster is, we've seen it throughout the years. Some organizations do a great job with it, some here and there, but I mean, like, it helps us identify players and you try to give coverage and help players out. If we don't have a roster, there's not much we can do for you if we don't see or have something present for those players. And then people kind of look at us sideways when, we don't have anything. Hey, there's no roster. There's nothing I can do. I don't expect to know every single player, even though like it's kind of like what we are good at. But I mean, it's some guys that we may have never seen before. If you don't have a roster, we can't see or do anything for them. So I think that's just the tough part when it comes to some tournaments, things like that. Just having a roster, something, grad years, school, something, names, something that we can work with so we can identify and know who's who.
For me, and maybe I'm wrong, it says a lot about the org and the coach and, just the operation for the people who show up with rosters. And I know that may seem like, right, like that may seem like, that's a very, basic way of looking at things. Right. But like, I can speak to this. I mean, I coached travel once upon a time or showcase. And like the first qualification for a travel organization or travel coach or whatever, the first qualification, have a roster. If you are doing showcase, if you're just playing, Sunday play or whatever, out at whatever league or something like that, and just kind of like getting guys to work in or whatever, sure. Because nobody's there. Like there's no college coaches there. There's nobody trying to push stuff out. And like for all intents and purposes, if we're being honest, the vast majority of those players that, don't necessarily have intentions or legitimate intentions of playing college baseball. But if you're paying money and even if you're not paying money, even if it's just like, kind of a local team or whatever, like you're putting yourself in situations to like turn coaches away. Because like coach comes over to the dugout and says, hey, like y'all got a roster, to players? No, coach, it's the fall. It's the first weekend. Like, what does that have anything to do with it? Like, that's the answer we get. Right. And we go on the website and there's two options: team roster, team profile. Click on both. Nothing there. Okay. Like whatever. That's a whole nother ball of wax. Like you shouldn't be able to even get into the tournament without a roster submitted. But anyway, like, and then not have a paper one on top of that. And then like, don't have and you're like, hey, yeah, man, my fault. I don't have a roster. It's the first weekend, or I didn't think about it, or I forgot, or didn't get a chance to go buy Staples or whatever. Take a piece of paper, write down the players' names and the grad class and the high school. Give it to a parent in the stands. They can probably do it. Right? But sometimes we'll get like, oh, yeah, I got a roster, and it's the lineup card with a last name. What does that do? Like, I've seen that given to college coaches. This isn't just an us thing.
Yeah.
I've seen that given to college coaches, like, last name, Anderson. Okay. Does Anderson have a first name? Does Anderson go to school? Is Anderson in school? When is Anderson going to graduate? And nothing. I cannot for the life of me. And I told Jordan, I said, I wanted to go on Twitter and go like full scorched earth soapbox. But I was like, I'll save it for the pod. But like that is like, as a travel coach, yes, there are some coaches and organizations that teach and focus on development more than others. Right. And shout out to those teams. Because coaching and making players better, yes, that is part of it. But if you are in a showcase tournament and you have coaches, we had college coaches there. I don't know, Jordan was probably 8, 10 schools, something like that there this weekend, kind of bouncing in and out. And you're there, and they want to see players. and you have traveled, regardless of whether it's 30 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, these parents have paid money regardless of what it was for entry, for dues, for hotel, whatever it is, for their son or sons to showcase their ability on the baseball field in hopes of getting to the college level. And you don't have a roster to help them with that? Like, that's crazy. That is absolutely bananas. And look, we're gonna say this, and like, we're gonna go through this, and my anger level goes through the roof when it happens, because literally your biggest job as a travel coach is to have a roster. Like, next weekend, there's still going to be people without rosters. Every single weekend of the fall, there's going to be a team that did not put an online roster on, did not update the team profile, which, okay, whatever, and still won't have a paper roster. And I can't for the life of me understand how that happens. And just like, there's no excuse. There's no excuse for it. Right? And like, we can all say, it's not that big of a deal. All right, I'll show up to a game without a radar gun.
Yeah.
What people will say.
That'll go well.
What are they going to say?
Like, you're not going to radar this kid? No, I don't have a radar gun. Like, yeah.
And they go, you're not prepared. That's your job. Da-da-da-da-da. Yep, it's your job to have a roster.
Mm-hmm.
That's your job. Do your job. Like, again, I know maybe going a little bit too hard at it, but like, seriously, like, we're talking about doing stuff for the players. Like, it's not necessarily, yes, it helps us, and we want to help your players. But also, as a coach, you should want to help your players, because that's kind of the job.
Take a breath, breathe.
Yeah, it just really, that's one that is like, you talk about like an ick or whatever you want to call it. Like, that is top of the list. That is one. If you don't know a single thing about baseball, show up with a roster, and you will be winning that weekend. Winning because you're helping your players. Yeah. Anything to add here, Jordan?
No. Let's hope we just get better as the fall goes on. Just fingers crossed. Hope we get better.
Yeah. And look, for the vast majority, we have rosters online and stuff like that. But we have multiple games this weekend where both teams didn't have a roster. Neither team. And so the worker called us, and texted, was like, hey, these teams don't have any roster. What do I do? Like, I don't know, take a nap? Like, make sure the umpire has baseballs?
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing our guys can do.
Yeah.
There's literally nothing. If you can't help yourself, like, why are we, diving in the trenches trying to find stuff out if you're not even interested in that? But I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't negatively affect us. It just negatively affects the players, which should not be the case. But all right, I think we've skint all the hair off of that one. Until next weekend. I just absolutely crash out. Yeah. All right, Jordan, anything else you want to add on tournaments? We talked about Jacob Babcock. We have a ton of tournaments coming up. We have underclass this next weekend in Richmond. We have like 100 and some teams the following weekend in DC and Richmond. Anything that you want to add?
No, tournaments are back, getting at it, so it's a good time for us to continue to see and evaluate different players, some new faces, familiar faces, things like that. So we're just going to continue to see these guys throughout the fall. These guys just keep getting after it.
All right. Jordan's always the light of positivity. I'm
Sometimes.
always.
Sometimes.
Huh?
Sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
definitely no. All right. We're going to jump into 2028 rankings update now. You see that? Look at I got the banner switch going. What do you think today? But 2028 rankings update. These were released at noon. This is airing on Monday night. And Jordan, the first thing that we're gonna jump into here is just the top 10. I'm gonna go through the top 10, and just name, school, whatever. No commitments. We didn't have anyone that was committed in like 7th grade in this group that's holding on. So no committed players. So everybody is at the bare minimum to August 1 next year of 2020. What's that? 2020. What year is it? 2026, right? Yeah, 2026. I don't know what year it is. So we're going to start off with number 1. Remaining at the number 1 spot is Josh Gunning, Battlefield High School infielder, right-handed pitcher. Trent O'Malley at number 2, right-handed pitcher, outfielder, first baseman, Langley High School. Harley Matella at number 3, outfielder, Cape Henry Collegiate. Number 4, Tyler Caperton, shortstop, right-handed pitcher, Eastern View High School. Number 5, Elijah Archer, first baseman, outfielder, Highland Springs High School. Number 6, Tyler Howard, right-handed pitcher, Spotswood. Number 7, state champion, Spotswood, I might add. Number 7, Gibson Beck, right-handed pitcher, infielder, St. Christopher School. Number 8, Grant Capel, left-handed pitcher, Matorka High School. And number 9, Jack Guerin, shortstop, right-handed pitcher, St. Albans School. And number 10, Liam Skeen, right-handed pitcher, Union High School. Jordan, that's the top 10. We've released the full top 75 as of noon today. That is fully updated. We have new 50 to follow coming out tomorrow, Tuesday, and then we have new faces and risers coming out those next 2 days. Anything that you want to touch on here that maybe isn't in a story or we haven't talked, again, we aren't intending on talking about in stories. Anything you want to touch on?
Yeah, I mean, just going over that top 10, talk about some evident arm talent throughout this top 10. We have some guys that can do a little bit of everything, spin it, got some projection arms, got some pitchability there in this top 10. And you got some guys that can swing it a little bit, like Harlan Mattel, one of the top hitters in that underclass in the beach area. Elijah Archer, you know what happens with him, power bat, some hit to it goes with that bat as well. But I think just the arm talent up at the top of this class. I like the upside and the potential that they have down the road. And there's some guys outside of that top 10. I think position wise has made some strides as well. So I think there's a little bit of balance here as you get towards the back end of the outside of the top 10. But the top 10, I really like the upside of the arm talent that they could show down the road.
Yeah, 26 is pretty arm heavy. 26 class is pretty arm heavy. And 27 class, I think, is more positional heavy. And I think that this is a good combination of both. And at the same time, I think there are some really stark contrasts in how this top 10, top 15, top 20 are shaped. And what I mean by that is I think with Gunning, you have a higher floor, maybe lower ceiling guy with the positional ability and his pitch ability and probably and I haven't seen him in deep outings much. But probably closer to command than control, as far as on the mound. And so you have him at the top again, who's probably a higher floor, lower ceiling guy. And then you have O'Malley, who probably has a little bit of mix of both. and probably as far as like if we're talking power bats, probably the most polished power bat here, to where like some of the baseball instincts and things like that. And O'Malley has made a rise, 9 spots from May and 10 spots from March, and also has some tools on the mound as well. And then you have Harley Mattel. You got some guys. We talk about those positional guys who can really hit. Matella can really hit. He can hit for a little bit of power. There's some bat to ball there. He can get on the mound and he can do it. I don't think it's his favorite thing in the whole wide world to do. But he is more than capable on the mound. Tyler Caperton, like I would argue, I would argue best defender in this class in the state. I think definitely probably best defender that is going to stick positionally. I think Beck can really, 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 really defend, but like I lean more towards arm for him than positional. You got Elijah Archer. Like we talked about gunning where it was like a floor ceiling thing. Like Archer is, there are some like baseball things like instinctively and stuff like that. I think base running and just like he's kind of like and this is necessarily, but he's kind of like bull in the china shop. He's just going full throttle, right? He's just going full throttle, and when he hits it, like he's wrecking it.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I know Elijah played football. I'm sure he was an absolute menace as like a D tackle or DN. But like stupid ceiling here, like raw power. It's really good bat to ball. I think we've detailed it like in some scout blogs and in some write-ups and things like that. I think like approach, pitch recognition, zone awareness, like things like that are things like the instinctive, innate things are things that probably are where that like room is left to grow. I would say for him, and then figuring out like where he best fits positionally, corner, outfield, or first base. But it is power like nobody else in this class has. It is hard contact like nobody else in this class has. O'Malley can really bang it. And it's more like in-game production, cleaner, probably more consistent. And Archer's is just like through the roof projection. And then, we got a new face with Tyler Howard. We talk about arms, like O'Malley, like intent, come at you, got some velo, upper 80s, touching 90, touching 91, gunning, mid, upper 8s, fills it up, commands, and then you have Howard, who's like one of the youngest in the class, probably the best operation, really good mover, like the arm really works. Like I think this kid has a chance to be really good.
Yeah,
I think he has a chance to be really good. Gibson Beck, like on the mound, the slider can be electric. He pitches, he throws strikes. It's a good body. He's a good mover. He's athletic, capable, physical left-hander. I think he threw a ton of innings this year, in between, March and July, end of July, right there to August. Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong. He was back on it this weekend.
Yeah, I saw him this weekend.
Yeah. So I think like for him, like refining the secondary and then making sure like health and taking care and stuff like that and kind of regrouping, especially after the fall. I think we're going to see more of a jump for him going into next spring after he's fresh and kind of recovered from a lot of innings this year. I I think you're going to see a jump there, kind of like you did with him, like kind of like we did with him last spring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we saw him last fall and it was good, and then we saw him last spring and it had taken like a 3 mile an hour jump. It looked crisper, it looked cleaner, and it was probably more consistent. Where he's fluctuated some on the back end of the summer just because I think of the workload. Guerin, like, also can really defend. I probably, if I had to lean one way, I'd lean arm right now. I think, and we wrote some of this up in the story today. I think the foot speed and some of the athleticism, like I guess like measurable athleticism. Like if you watch him at shortstop, like he moves really well, and he can really defend. But I think some of the true foot speed needs to get a little bit better. So I'd probably lean a little bit more arm. And then Skeen, like I like. It's not typical, but it's like that lower elbow, lower slot. It's got some lift on the fastball. I like the way that the fastball can play at times. I think like for our looks, would you agree with this? Our looks, I mean, you saw him in the spring. We saw him in the fall for the first time. And then, the winter for the first time. And then you saw him in the spring in a short outing. And then we saw him late summer. I would say the consistency of the breaking ball kind of in the zone, and his ability to pitch in the upper half with that low release height and that riding fastball are probably like two areas like for the next jump for him. Would you say?
Yeah. I would think for me is just finishing counts. Like he can get deep in the counts. He can get you to 2 strikes. The fastball plays, I just think, finishing counts, showing something else like secondary wise, the finish counts, mix it in, work off the fastball. I think it's very heavy fastball usage. But I think if he can finish counts, show something else and mix in with the heavy fastball, I think he has a chance to make a jump. Just continue to get better with that.
Now we got one moving in that's a reclass, right broadhead. Has a chance to, I think, to really hit. Strong, physical, and like I said, he can impact the baseball moving into the 2028 class. Jordan, let's go. You can't go inside of the top 20. All right. Oh, in addition to that, you're going to reclass Noah Brooks moving in. Like large, kind of honestly probably large XL frame, 6'4", 210 pounds. Honestly, he's still like, people are like, oh, they're super old. Some, yes, 100%. Some people, yes. But looking at Noah, like he was birthday wise, it looks like he was kind of one of those summer tweeners where, he was really young for his class, like as a 27. And now he's just like maybe a month old. I mean, when I went to school, I was in school with guys who in reclassing wasn't a thing then, right? Or you didn't really hear about it. You heard about some guys maybe classing up that were extremely good athletes, but he's probably a month old. I mean, I went to school with multiple people who had birthdays in September who turned 16 their sophomore year in September. And like he just turned 16, probably a few weeks ago, a month. So he might be a month old, but pretty true for the class. So him and Wright are moving into this group. Give me outside of the top 20, and I'm throwing this on you, so it might take you a second. Give me a floor guy and give me a ceiling guy.
Okay. I think the first one that comes to mind with floor is Luke Torres from Marshall. You talk about a guy that just plays. You show up.
Just your floor guy, right?
Yeah, this is my floor guy. A guy that just shows up, plays hard, plays like his hair's on fire, hits. Some position versatility. He can move to the outfield. He can move into the infield. But this is a guy when you show up, he's going to compete in the box, put together some quality at bats, and just play fast at all times. So he's just a fun one to watch. We saw him in the spring, saw him in the summer, and like it just stayed the same. The guy's going to give you competitive bats, and just play hard. Ceiling guy. I got one. Antonio Burke. Talking about a guy that just looks the part, athletic, got some physicality to him. You know, we've seen him here and there, but just seeing him consistently, just looking at him, he looks the part. Maybe has a chance to be like a physical bat down the line. But just look at him and say, okay, I see something there down the line. If he can just put it all together, get stronger, get more athletic, that's my ceiling guy.
Man, you really went deep in the well there at 22 and 24. Uh,
You said outside 20. Hey,
that's fair. That's fair.
maybe you want to back up a little bit. Should have been more specific. Hey.
All right. Man, there's a couple here. Probably more so like for me, like ceiling guys. I would say floor guy. I'm gonna go a little deeper in the bag here. I'm gonna go Tucker Von Herbulus.
I like that.
I like watching Tucker play. It's like a quietness to his game. He does everything well. It's not like some elite tool type player. He gets on the mound like, I want to say get up in the low 80s maybe. I think, yeah, you get up in the low 80s. Pitches, throws strikes, kind of long, lanky frame, thin frame. He's got some room to add. So I do think there's some ceiling left there, but a guy who kind of like, hey, when you show up, you know what you're going to get type guy. I think Tucker Von Herbulus, Glenn Allen, infielder and right-handed arm. Ceiling guy, no pun intended. I just wrote on this player this morning, Liam Chow. Third baseman, right-handed pitcher. I think it's going to be first base, but that's what he's listed as third base. Ocean Lakes High School, and I say it's going to sound cliche for ceiling for this guy, but 6'7", 100 and I think it's like 190, listed 195 pounds, 15 and 10. So he's and again, I mean, you're probably talking about what obviously a November birthday, I would imagine. So true to his class, 6'7", obviously like XXL frame. Gonna have room to. I mean, he could probably add 20 pounds, and you never notice. But like the biggest thing, and I wrote about it this morning. The biggest thing that stands out about Liam is like how well he organizes himself. You see these guys who are 15 years old and they're 6'4" and 6'5" and 6'6" and 6'7", and they look like a baby giraffe, right? Or like a deer that was just born and like they can't walk and they can't. Everything looks awkward, right? Everything looks awkward and kind of out of sync. He's not that guy. Like he organizes himself extremely well on the mound and in the box. I want to say he's like low sevens or 7'4". It's a 7'4" runner. I would say like this, he's not a guy that's going to end up being a 6'9" runner. He would end up as a 7'2", as maybe he adds some strength and like more force in how he's running. Obviously, it's probably a long stride. I would go out on a limb and say, but like I just like the way he moves for a young player of that size. I remember when Eldridge, and again, I'm not saying that Liam is going to be Bryce Eldridge. I hope for his sake he is, but like we talked about Eldridge and got some questions like, oh, he's just so tall and he's so long. Is he going to be able to like move well enough to compete at a high level? And he did, right? Like everything just synced up, and you kind of get that feel here in terms of like just how the limbs and the body and everything functions to give you some hope on like, hey, this kid is a decent athlete for his size. And like he's going to be able to make some adjustments down the road, and they're going to translate into gameplay. So that's probably one for me. That's a ceiling guy. Isaac Elder kind of pops into mind. Another guy with an extremely long frame, long limbs, 6'3", 175. Probably another floor guy. Well, I said never mind. He's got to be outside of 20. That's what me. Ceiling guy, Brody Snelson. What?
Yeah. Oh, you still throwing shots at me. Got to be outside of 20. I was like right close to 20. So you just like to throw shots.
Well, but I went down like I went down.
Okay, whatever.
But now this one, Brody Snelson's getting closer to that 20 range. That's a ceiling guy who does have some tools.
On both sides.
Yeah, on both sides. Has some arm strength, has some juice in the bat, does some things well. Similar to some other guys that we talked about, I think some of those tools and some of the baseball instincts and things like that just need some refinement in how they play in game, and probably the consistency of how they show up. But there are certainly some things to be intrigued about and excited about with him. But that's kind of my floor and ceiling guys. Jordan, anything else that we want to add here on the 2028 class?
Yeah, like as you can see, like as we continue to go on in years of this class, like we're at 75 now. We're going to continue to expand this class. Still some guys that we still haven't seen yet or haven't seen in a while. So like this class is going to continue to grow. See there's some new guys, some familiar faces in the fall, trying to head into the winter and just kind of get an idea who do we go out and see in this class in the spring. So this class is obviously not done. It's continuing to grow, get better as we get to evaluate and see more and more players.
Yeah, and I think like that's a great kind of segue into the conversation of, hey, it's no need to make a list of 150, 200, 2028s who. Some of the guys like there would be a significant drop off in the talent level, and what we want to maintain the quality of the ranking and of the players in the ranking, and also like kind of sometimes like it sets some guys up a little bit like to struggle with that stuff, because like you'll have some guys in there who maybe don't necessarily belong at that time just to have some big ranking thing or whatever. And then they just don't take any steps forward. Like guys, everybody plateaus at some point in time, right? Sometimes it's multiple times, sometimes it's early, sometimes it's late, but like getting a better grasp on the class. Remember, the majority of these 28s are guys who did not play. Yeah, we went out to 200 and some high school games last year, 250, 260, whatever it was, high school games last year. But a vast majority of these guys didn't play. Now, what's crazy is the guys who did play are the guys up near the top. And I'm not necessarily saying like, oh, we're right, this, that, and the other. But like those guys have some ability. Josh Gunning started every single game and came in to close in multiple games. And what have we said all along? Like, hey, what you're gonna get kind of out of this kid. Mm-hmm. He competes. He's mature, like for his class in terms of like his ability in game. Trent O'Malley, like power production for Langley. And I don't know 100% Jordan, but I don't think he threw a ton, and it may not have been any, but like I would guess that he threw at some point in time. But I know when we saw Langley multiple times, he didn't throw. So it really allowed that bat to shine. Harley Metella started every game. It's every game I think that we saw for Cape Henry in the outfield, hitting the first half or front of the order. Tyler Caperton, lockdown defender at Eastern View. Threw some innings for them as well. Elijah Archer went out to see Highland Springs multiple times this year. Like, just did his thing. right? Tyler Howard threw 5 innings of 1 run, like 1 hit ball in a state championship game for Spotswood versus a really good Abingdon team.
Yeah.
You know, and you can go on and on. Beck, Capel, Guerin, Skeen, all of those guys started for their varsity team. That's not why we put them in the rankings, but that has something to do with, like, hey, yeah, they're pretty good, right? Lockhart got some spot time there at the end for Miller. Drew Wade threw huge innings for Miller School. Ethan Foster, great year at Wise. Brody Beasley, like backup shortstop when Brett went into pitch, he moved to short, started at other positions, moves around the field. Right broadhead got time. Mateo Pipia played for Gonzaga. Noah Brooks, like Luke Torres, lead off and played infield for Marshall all year. Jackson Whitehurst, like, led Great Bridge in hitting in batting average. So, like, these are guys that were contributors because they have some present tools that allow them to play in game and allow them to contribute. So, but yeah, we'll continue to expand this list, and this list will grow, and we'll get up. What do we ultimately cap it at, Jordan? What do we cap it? Is it 250?
250.
200, 250? I can't even remember. What did 25 class end up at? 250.
250.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're at 225 for the 26 class. So we'll expand that by 25. You know, not this fall, but probably as we get ready for the spring or post spring next year. But Jordan, anything to add before we sign off of here?
No, guys. Continue to get those registration requests in for our fall events. Tournaments going on still throughout the fall, so plenty of time to be seen, be evaluated from our staff.
Coaches, get them